Welcome, everyone. Chandra Zas here, Zen Odyssey. I have the pleasure and honor of being here with Dr. Yotam Tamari today. Thank you, Yotam, so much for being here. Welcome, everyone. Today, we are going to dive into the topic of emotions. And it's a really dear topic to both Yotam and I. If you've been listening to my videos, you know I talk a lot about emotions. And this was actually a request of Dr. Yotam's. It's also a topic that he's really passionate about. So I'm really, really excited today for our conversation. I've been really enjoying our series, our Doctor Talk series here. It's been really, really fun. And so we're going to continue and talk about emotions. And I want to lay the groundwork a little bit and share a little bit of my perspective as a coach with emotions. And then I'm going to dive in and we're going to get into Dr. Yotam's brain and how his perspective and how he sees it through Chinese medicine and from his health lens.
Welcome. Here is your hostess and coach, Chandra Zas, helping people make food and mood changes doable without missing out. Go ahead, high five that like button, subscribe and share while you're there.
For me, as a food and mood coach, I work a lot with emotions, and I really work a lot with emotions from the perspective of that emotions drive all of our habits. Everything that we're doing and not doing in our life is because of our emotions. It's kind of the way that I coach and teach people. It's like our driving force energy. A lot of people kind of think that emotions are not important, but they're really at the root of a lot of what's going on in our life and what we're going after and what we're trying to avoid. You know, we want to feel successful. We want to feel loved. We want to feel connected. We don't want to feel bad. And so a lot of times when we're trying to avoid our bad feelings, we're often turning towards unhealthy external things. Like we're eating food, we're drinking alcohol, we're smoking cigarettes to avoid our bad feelings, which kind of has like a double negative effect on ourselves. So emotions are a really, really huge part of what I work with people in the beginning. And really, because without getting our emotions on board and in alignment and flowing and functioning well, it's really hard to make any changes in our lifestyle. Like emotions really are kind of the place to start. So I think that that's a good starting. And I'm really curious, and I'm imagining you guys are also curious, like what exactly Dr. Yotam's going to talk about and what is his perspective and Chinese medicine's perspective. So I want to add one more piece. And the other really important piece that I'd like to lay the groundwork for emotions is that like emotions are really connected to stress levels. The way that I work with people and coach with people is in lowering stress levels. And a lot of what I found with stress is that stress is kind of a resistance to our emotions. And so one of the doorways into working with stress is actually getting into a better relationship with our emotions. So I think that's a good starting point. So Dr. Yotam Tamari, I'm so excited to hear what you have to say about this. Let's start with a question of saying kind of like, let's start with what is your kind of general perspective on emotions in regard to a person's health or lack of health?
So for the first, I was really identify with your words towards that status of emotion that really drives us in life. It drives us in every single action that we take. And it's all rooted to the fundamental part in our body, which is the heart. Always the heart is the ruler, he's the emperor. And he's the controller of the emotions. And our speech, our words that coming outside of our mouth, its only definition is to bring into the awareness of the environment, what my heart is feeling, what my heart need right now. This is a really healthy status of emotion, which a person is connected to his heart, connected to his feeling, and is able to pronounce and to bring forward what he's feeling.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm in the Dead Sea, floating in the water. Go ahead and like and share and follow so we can keep in touch.
Whatever it's pain, whatever it's sadness, whatever it's happiness, whatever it's grief, all the emotion,
Spectrum.
yeah, all of our emotions that there is. And most of the problem starts when a person doesn't bring forward his status of the heart. Everything starts from that. And by using your words, people that avoiding from the emotion, it happens really because the emotion is really tough. It's really strong. It's really tough to comprehend. It's really tough to cope with. And most of us, it's not by accident, we don't teach us how to deal with our emotions. We don't give the proper tools to work with our emotions. And then it becomes a difficulty, a struggle to go through my emotions instead of embracing and saying, yes, that's who I am. Yes, that's the best there is. Because our environment is always requires us to suppress our emotions and to be in a specific status quo. Oh, he's crying all the time. Something bad is happening with him. He's always happy. What's wrong with him? Why is always happy? And most of the people doing it from the subconscious place. It's a subconscious place. So it's a really healthy status is to bring forward everything there is and to be proud of it, to wave as it was my flag. That's my emotion now. And the most important thing that we need to understand that we are not our emotions. We only speak through this dimension, which called emotions. This is emotions. If the heart is the emperor and he needs to come forward and to give expression to his being and to his presence, he's doing it only through the emotions. But he is not the emotion. The heart is a concept which is so deep, so vast and infinite, so that the mind cannot comprehend it all the way. So our body have a tool and dimension, which through that, the heart, the infinite, our infinite, can bring expression.
Can I ask you a question to maybe start at a starting point? Because I find that one of the useful things to do because, for a lot of us, like, as you said, like our culture, our family, it's not really taught or even normal to feel all the feelings. Like, it's more taught to suck it up and don't cry and don't express. So I find that one of the things that helps us make changes is like understanding what are the costs of not doing whatever it is. And in this case, like, what's the cost of not feeling our feelings, or being, as you're saying, like being honest and waving and being proud of our feelings? Like, what's the cost of, like, what do you see in your patients, and what do you see maybe in yourself or in the people that you're helping? Like, what are the costs when we don't feel our feelings? Like, what happens?
So the body is really smart. The body is the most intelligent mechanism that there is in nature, the human body, which contains all of the elements that nature has in a microcosmos. And when we're stepping away from the true path of our heart, and we're stepping away, the body will do what it needs to bring us back to the root. So the conscious mind will say, I'm suffering. Why am I suffering? Why I deserve it? What I did that I deserve it? But it's not that I deserve it. I deserve it because it brings me back to my path. So the starting point, it's really, it's the most low point is pain. It's just pain. So a lot of people that has anger will suffer from shoulder problems because anger goes up, hands and face, everything, the energies want to burst outside of them. And when it's not coming to expression, it gets stuck in the upper part of the body.
I call it issues in the tissues. When we don't process our emotions, the emotions get stuck in our physical body. I've never heard that with the anger in the shoulders, though. That's really cool. Makes sense.
Worries and cycle thoughts, which is a process, digestive. It's a digest emotions. When a person is stuck in that, he will feel pain in his stomach, in his digestion. And when things in life is too hard and it's extra worry, he will feel it in his digestive. And he will become a weak and sensitive digestive into specific foods.
There was a interesting...
We can go on and on and on, and how the emotions, when they're not getting expression, it's starting from the tissues, like you said. And if the person doesn't pay attention, it goes past much more deeper inside of the organs itself. And then when that's happened, disease started to happen. All kind of those diseases that we see in the last 100 years that we didn't have before. Cancer, asthma, blood pressure, sugar, heart disease.
Yeah.
And also what's even more developed is our fear from disease. The Western medicine is input inside of our mind the fear of diseases. But the flu, like the flu or the corona, like they said, there is, who knows? The flu is the most fundamental sign for our body to stop, to pay attention, to get the toxins out. Our body is dealing 24/7 of detoxification. The physical, the mental, and the spiritual. So the physical, it's the toxins from the food and the things that we put inside. The mental is the things that happens to me in life, what I take from me and what I don't take from me. And that's the spiritual. And the mental, that's the emotions. And when emotion doesn't express, it's stuck. And it's like it's like a toxin that sits in our body. So also that is a detoxification.
Well, I have so many questions for you right now. I want to touch on a few points. So I think part of what you're getting at with the bringing up the flu piece, and I've heard this also before many, many years ago, is actually the importance of getting sick, the importance of allowing our body to have a cold and to get a flu and to cleanse our body. Like as we get sick and we purge and we have the fever and it burns out maybe even more than just the flu, maybe it burns out other toxins, that actually getting sick is actually a really important thing. And the prevention of it, which has been kind of Western medicine's approach the last number of decades, is actually not the best for our entire body systems. It maybe helps us dodge a few days of sickness, but long-term, it's not necessarily the best thing for our health. Is that what you're getting at with the flu, like the fear of getting the flu, that actually the maybe more healthy perspective and Chinese medicine perspective is like actually embrace the flu, and it's important to get sick once or twice a year. The other piece.
Sorry, before your question, that's also connects to what we started to say, that our environment is is making us suppress our emotions and to keep on give the product. So also it happens in the physical. When I'm getting ill, come take a pill, feel better, put your problems aside and take a pill and keep on. And yes.
Yeah. And actually, I feel like there's like several places we can go. I feel like we could talk about this for a long time, but I think it's an interesting thing you're bringing up with taking a pill, because one of the things that I've learned about over the years is like understanding that when we take a pill, we're actually kind of like suppressing the symptoms. And I'd be interested to hear what your kind of perspective on like what happens in the body when we suppress those symptoms, because I know that there's some negative effects to it. What would you say on that? When we just take a pill, we're both ignoring our reality, we're kind of pushing ourselves aside, but there's also a physical component to like pushing. Do you have anything else you want to say on that?
So in the most simple way of understanding, when we're taking a pill, we're confusing the body. We're telling him, we're showing him a different picture of what's really happening inside of our body. What's happening when we're taking a pill and it's supposed to get us to feel better, let's say in pain, like paracetamol. What it does, it comes in the left side of our brain. That's where the center of the pain, the center of the balancing the numbers of impulses that's coming inside of our brain to tell the brain that what happened in the body, and the number of impulses that goes out of the brain. When we have pain, all of that is really fast. A lot of information comes by to the brain when it's too much, when it really wants to tell the brain that something is happening. So when we're taking paracetamol, that's just
it's like numbing, it's like suppressing the receptors.
Yes, exactly. And then the brain doesn't connect what happens to the body. And that's 100 degrees away from the medicine that was 2,000 years ago. That if something happens to the body and the person was ill, people would used to give him herbs. That herbs will be effective to bring help to the organ which suffer, and help that specific organ to get the toxin away from it, from that specific organ. So the real and the true medicine that the person should take is a medicine that will help the body to do what it needs to do. And all of that diseases that we spoke before, that's the body was so confused that now it doesn't know what to do. Now the body got given. Okay, you didn't pay attention for years. That's it. I gave up. Do whatever you need.
And in that mode, the body kind of just starts storing things, right? It kind of just like starts making little pockets and creating little kind of pockets of toxins in our body, right? It's just kind of like puts it aside, puts it in the closet, puts it under the bed, puts it.
And in the most easy way to understand, inflammation thrives in the body.
Yeah. I feel like we could definitely go down a whole topic about flus and sicknesses. And I mean, I even would like to talk to you. Maybe we can even do another podcast on like how you treated your body during and after you had COVID. Like, I think that there's some really interesting things here, but I also think that maybe let's stay on the topic of emotions today, just as it's like, yeah. So I want to ask you, I'm really interested if you would name a few more emotions, like you named anger and worry, where they get stuck in the body. I'd love to hear another couple emotions. And I also like to share a story that really opened my mind. There was a story I heard about a soldier who was shot in the stomach, and his stomach was like they had access into seeing into his stomach because of the way this wound was. And it was one of the times that they actually documented the changes of the emotional state, that they were specifically documenting stress levels, that when he was more stressed or when he was more relaxed, they actually saw the acids in his stomach physically change based on his emotional state. It was one of the first times they really documented, I think this was over 50 years ago, but they really documented the physical effects of emotions in the body. So would you add in, would you tell me some more? I love hearing about like different ways that emotions like manifest in the body. Do you have another few that you can share with us?
Yes. So we need to understand that emotions are a true mechanism of energy that moves in our body. Like we said before, that anger goes up. So the mechanism of anger is to bring forward the person into action. That's the hands and the face. Anger is a specific emotion that wants to bring the person into action, and after that into a conclusion that he will get away from that anger. He wants to get it out from him by an action.
I've always thought of anger as like a force of change, that anger is a very useful thing to make change happen, that there's a usefulness to it.
Yes.
When we're using it correctly, when we're in alignment with it. What about sadness? Where does sadness, when someone doesn't feel sadness?
So sadness really dismisses the energy. It's like if I was firm and strong and standing still in front of nature's forces, when I'm feeling sad, I'm dismissing, I'm dissolving. The life energies really comes inside. It's sadness and grief. It's pretty much the same. It's really similar, because the person needs to do when there is sadness, there is a really a process of letting go. I'm letting go of something. If I'm sad about something, it means it's a separation. Sadness is really a separation away from something.
The loss.
And when there is separation, there is grief. And so to pass on sadness and grief, we need to do a letting go. A person should be inside of that sadness. The mechanism of the energy is dismissed, is dissolving in, so I can do a really process, not dealing with my environment. So I can be in that emotion to understand his values and the things that I'm stepping away from, and the things I'm letting go away from myself, to make space to new things. And so letting go and sadness, it's a really crucial and important aspect that every person should ask himself. Every day we're getting to know new people and invite them to come inside of our life. And there is specific time that we are giving up for friends from childhood, because now we're not, the energy doesn't work. So that separation, it's really the feeling of letting go.
What happens when we don't feel our sadness? Like when we're...
It's a perfect question, and I can share a case story with my colleague that he's treated a woman which has sleeping problems, and he was treating her, and he didn't understand why the treatments are not working. And in Chinese medicine, there is a pulse diagnosis, that we feel the pulse, and in every station of the finger, we feel a specific organ and how much this organ is vivid. So he felt that the lungs are dismissed, lack of energy. And the lungs, there are by the spiritual and mental function of the lungs, we're doing the letting go. That organ is doing letting go. And then he understands that she doesn't letting go of something. And he came to the conclusion that she's dealing with death, specific death that she doesn't process and letting go. And then he asked her about which death you don't process. And then she said that she had a divorce 2 years ago. And ever since, she doesn't sleep. But she didn't tell him that in the interview. So we're seeing there's really vast symptoms that can happen when we're not given expression to a specific emotion. It's really because the organs are all intertwined inside of each other. Every organ affects another organ in specific and other way, which is really so intelligent, so by nature smart and beyond our comprehension. But let's take that case, an example, that the lungs are doing expansion and
exhale, contraction.
Contraction, yes. And so what happened to her that she doesn't expand? There is no expansion. There's only contraction. So the heart, the organ, the heart is covered by the lungs. The lungs are covering the heart. And a person that has sleeping problems, it means that the heart is, there is a irritability, specific irritability in the heart, which doesn't let him to sink in, to lower the vibration and come into a state of sleep. So it's really diverse.
So for her, she had a divorce and then she had sleep problems, and it sounds like
sorry, not divorce, apala, when she the baby wasn't alive in pregnancy.
She had a stillbirth.
Yeah.
Okay. So she had
Sorry, I wasn't.
No, thanks for clarifying. So she had a stillbirth and a couple of years prior, and she hadn't really processed her sadness and her grief and the real loss. And so it had manifested in holding in her lungs, which then affected her heart, which then affected her like physical body, and then her eventual sleep to be disrupted and imbalanced. Yeah, my personal, for me, my really big learning of how important it was to feel my feelings was when I went through a big breakup, and it was I was very, very sad. It was a loss. I was losing a relationship, even though I actually I knew the relationship wasn't the best thing. I was still having this lots of loss and grief. And I went to my psychologist and I asked him, I said, I started to feel depressed. I started to feel, and when I was in my teens, I suffered from a lot of depression, and I was kind of scared of feeling depressed. I knew what depressed is not a fun place to be. And so I looked at him and I was like, I'll do anything. Like, tell me how to avoid depression. And he told me, he said, you need to feel as long and as hard as you can. And I was like, what? And so I started doing that. And I was personally very scared of feeling the sadness and feeling the grief, but I knew I was like, okay, well, I'm either going to get depressed, which I didn't want, or I'm going to try feeling these feelings. And I couldn't believe that after just a couple minutes of allowing myself to cry and allowing myself to really feel the grief, how it felt like I had been like taking a shower and I felt refreshed from just 1 or 2 minutes of like crying and really feeling it, instead of like being in that state of like trying not to feel it. And so for me, I've really seen that like depression, and I think also, depression, I feel a lot of depression like in my chest. I feel that heaviness, and it feels even hard to breathe. I like how, and I know from Chinese medicine that grief is like in the lungs, but like that, even there's like these depression points, right? Like there's the points that I think that these are lung points, correct? To like help us. And I also love, we've talked about this too, but like the importance of breathing to move emotions. So it's like, even just the act of like breathing our lungs intentionally, because I know when we're sad, it's easy to not breathe. Like it's easy to like hold and like feel like, you know, to not, what you're saying, to not inhale, to not exhale. Oh yeah, it's so important, right?
That's our true nature, to feel. And we can look at babies. Babies are the most close to nature there is. When they're outside of in their mother's belly, in the side of the womb, they are one. They're in unity. And that's the most spiritual concept that all the books and all philosophical saying and writing books about that unity. And a baby experiences that unity in the most direct point that we cannot comprehend. And in these 1 year after he comes out of the mother, the 2 years, every time he has problem in the heart, he's crying immediately. There is no suppressing whatsoever, because he was really inside of that unity. He was close to the truth. And every year that he's stepping away from that truth and things that not him start to stick an input on his heart, there is more blockages on the glasses that the heart has. So when the glasses are clean, every time there is an emotion that needs to come out, immediately it goes out, because the baby knows that this is the nature, that's the heart's nature. And it does that intuitively, naturally. And it's the same, and it's actually the same that we grows up. It's never changing.
Well, until we tell our kids and until we learn from our culture and the people around us to not feel our feelings and to not cry and to not move those emotions, right? And then we have a whole nother set of issues. I love that you brought up kids, because it's something that I have my little one, and it's something that I very actively worked on with her, is like, actually, whenever she cries, like, you know, my partner's family is from Russia and different, I would say even a more emotionally repressed culture. And their inclination is to constantly tell her, don't cry, don't cry. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel, which it's like, it's very different than most of us are used to believing and thinking about emotions. And but it's like become my personal mission, both to give her the space and the allowance to feel her feelings, and also all the big people around her to realize, like, hey, it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to feel angry, it's okay to feel these things. It's even important and crucial to feel these feelings.
And it's so fundamental to pay attention, to tell the child, instead of telling him what he should do, more to ask him what he experienced. Because also until the teenagers, they know. Kids know what they need. Kids know what they love. They don't need to us telling them what to do. They don't need us to tell them what things are. They don't need that. They need support to help them to understand what they are, and that they are beautiful and perfect as the way they are. So just to ask them, well, how are you feeling? How was your day? What did you experience? What did you learn? And that's it. And the kid will come out perfectly. The things, when things started to become twisted, is when we are passing on the trauma to them. That we have fears, that we have anxiety in specific things in life, and we're afraid about that the child will have it. And then we're passing on the trauma.
We pass on the repressed emotion, or the loop of repressing the emotion. Wow, really cool tie-in. So what in your perspective, what is the ideal, like, optimal way to be with our emotions? Like, what's the...
That's a perfect question, because we're not the same. We're really not the same. So for each person, it's really different. For one person, it will be 15 minutes of running a day. For another, it will be dancing. For another, it will be one time a week to breathe 45 minutes really deeply. And for another, it will be singing. For another, it will be writing. Every action that's involve creativity by that expression. Even running, it's expression of creativity. To feel the body is moving inside of the space that we call the world. It's creativity. To do a dance pole dancing, to do swimming, to play in theater, or to do a play for the children in the house, and we can go on and on and on and on. But really, it's being conscious to our emotional needs, to make time every day to our emotional needs, and to ask every day what I need. I need to cry, I need to dance, I need to speak with someone I love, to share. I need to write down to get out of me my emotions. I need to sit down and quiet.
I want to ask you how you process your emotions, and I also want to share how... I'll give you a second. I want to share how the way that I found works for me the best. For me, walking is really my, like, emotional medicine. I find that sometimes it depends on, like, how many emotions I have going on. Sometimes, like, one really big walk a week, a 2 or 3 hour walk where I don't have my phone, I'm not listening to anything, like, I'm walking and I'm really kind of with myself, and I'm, like, kind of thinking, and I'm talking to myself, and I'm feeling, and I'm kind of, like, going through this process. And there have been times in my life where I have kind of more emotions going on, where I need it more often. Sometimes I need it maybe every day. I need an hour to, like, really, really be with myself. And the way I really like to think about it is, like, I call it my me time. It's like where I'm really, and I like how you said it, like, I'm really present with myself. I'm present with my internal reality. It's like, I even feel like it's kind of like a date with myself. It's like, just like in a relationship, like spending time with someone, it's like how you build a relationship. So I find that spending time with myself is, like, crucial to my emotional health, even a mental health. I think there's a big connection there. So for me, walking is, like, my really big medicine. I also think there's something to the movement of walking, and also breathing. Like, there's something about the routine and the rhythm and the, like, yeah, even, like,
Walking,
I find...
So walking is the most natural way which the diaphragm works without our conscious mind telling us, breathe with your diaphragm. And when the diaphragm is working while we breathe, all the internal organs getting a massage.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
a cleansing.
Yeah. I feel it. I feel like walking is, like, my serious medicine. So what's your, tell me what your practice is. I'd love to hear yours.
So I found 6 months ago the method that's called rebirthing, in Hebrew rebirthing, which really brings us back into that child status, which is only breath. Lay down on the ground and just breathing without stop. And by doing so, the body is coming in, the physical body comes into trance. Like, we're letting go of the possession of how am I doing? I'm doing good, I'm not doing good, and just let the body flow. And by doing that, that's a really healthy and fertile ground, to bring up the emotion, to breathe into it and pass on it. Every time I'm suppressing the emotion, it means that I didn't breathe in that time. So I'm also giving treatments, and I started giving treatments by this methodics, and really that's for me, that's a gift. It's an actual gift, just to breathe, and to breathe in intensity, with presence, and by that, so to go deeper inside of my soul, and to do a cleansing for my soul from the internal out. But I also really love dancing, and I really love walking as well. And yeah, dancing is really crucial. Every morning after praying, to put a song that I love, to let go of everything, to dance alone, nobody is watching me. The best for me is also to dance with my eyes closed, even more letting go, even more looking inside of myself.
Nice.
Because our purpose here is love and happiness. Yeah, we spoke only about that other feelings, but the main purpose is to feel love and happiness. Love and happiness also, now science shows us in studies that love and happiness fills our body in flow of energy. Every part of our body is getting filled. Every part of our body is a one unit. And love and happiness, that's the emotion that helps us connect everything together.
I think it's very, very normal that all of us want to feel love and happiness. And I think I love that you're bringing up this topic. And from what I've seen is a lot of people, we think that we should only feel love and happiness all the time. But what I've seen is that when we're resisting the sad and the anger and the hard emotions, we close our spectrum of emotion, and then we have less access to the love and the happiness. And so I really love talking about the connection of to actually feel the love and the happiness, we have to kind of allow ourselves to feel the sadness and the anger, so that our emotional spectrum opens and we really have that access to that love and happiness and bliss and joyfulness. That's really, it's a hard sell to say well, you need to lean in and feel your hard emotions. But I find that if we connect that dot and be but your emotional spectrum will open, and you're going to feel more love and happiness if you feel this anger and sadness and the hard emotions that are part of life. It's the 50-50 duality of life. And when we lean into the heart, we get more of the fun, easy love, happiness. But we all really innately want, it's our natural thing to desire it. We just have gotten confused about suppressing our emotions.
And that's the true main goal for us to do here in this world. That's what we came to do here, to fix ourselves, to heal ourselves. And every person should find his own specific and beautiful and unique way to link into his healing process, because every person is in his healing process.
Unique, yeah. I have one more question for you. The way that I teach about emotions is that emotions are simply physical vibrations. And I'd love to hear kind of your perspective on it, because I know there's, in Chinese medicine, there's all the different layers, that there's the energy, because I know Chinese medicine talks a lot about emotions. So if there's anything else because I tried it, because all of our brains were kind of wired to be scared of pain and to avoid pain, including emotional pain. And so one of the tools I give my clients is teaching them that emotions are just physical vibrations. They kind of override that instinctual fear and resistance to the negative emotion, and that it's just a physical vibration that's in our body, and that it's okay to feel it. It's not going to actually harm us. So I'd love to hear what, if anything, you have to say on that piece.
So you said really beautiful, and I don't have a lot to add to it, but the Chinese medicine says that every emotion stores and comes out from a specific organ. The heart is the controller, the emperor that bring harmony into all of the emotions, but every emotion stores in a specific organ. And every organ has its own frequency and vibration. And when that vibration is go out of balance, also the emotion of that organ will get outside of balance. A person that doesn't eat correctly and a healthy and nourishful food, he will start worrying and don't have the ability to do a mental digestive of his own thoughts. And then he will become consumed by his own thoughts. So it goes back both ways.
So the organ can be off. Like I know, like the colon is fear, right? The the colon is ruled by fear, right?
It's also yeah, you can
or the
say
brain. We can talk about the brain. The brain is the brain worry? Is that what is? I don't know the emotion of the brain actually.
The spleen is worrying.
Uh-huh.
The lung is being sad.
Mm-hmm.
The liver is angry.
Mm-hmm.
The kidneys are fear.
Mm-hmm. So let's say someone is maybe not drinking, like how would the kidneys would be imbalanced by not drinking enough water?
Also because of a lot of things.
So if the kidneys are if the kidneys are undernourished, then it can bring about the emotion of fear in the body. Is that kind of like what the connection that it can happen? The physical organ can have a problem which would manifest in an emotion coming forward.
Sometimes it goes in that specific way, and sometimes when we're not drinking enough water, because the kidneys are suffering, the liver will suffer. Right. Because the liver won't get his nourishment from the kidney, and then we can feel angry all the time and frustrated. But right. Because we are drinking water and it's affecting the kidneys. So every time it can go in all specific kinds of ways.
But I hadn't really connected that dot. It's interesting that you bring in that, like a problem and an imbalance in the physical organ can cause an emotion to rise, like in this example of the kidneys, and then an example of the lungs with the woman who had the stillbirth. She had the emotion that then manifested in the physical organ, which then created the sleep issue. So it's yeah, I mean, in the end, everything's connected, right? Beautiful. Yes. I feel like we could maybe we'll do another part 2, part 3, part 4 on emotions. I feel like we both have, it's a really fun topic for both of us. Is there any last thing that you want to add in about emotions and about emotional health and about anything else that you would like to?
We spoke about it a little bit before in the previous podcast. The best time to do emotional cleansing or emotional me time, like you said, is morning and evening, waking up and before going to sleep. That's the most fertile time that we can affect and change the things that bothers us. It's the most clean time that the mind can be affected.
Is that because
so I recommend?
I know Chinese medicine has like different organs and different energies throughout the time of the day. So is that why before, or why is it before morning and before or after waking? And
okay, so let's speak about it like through the organs. So in morning time, that's the time of the colon and the stomach. So the colon, what it's doing is letting go, is making space to new things. And then it's the time of the stomach, when we're putting inside things that will become us. So that's a really crucial time that we can do things that now will become us. Why are we eating? Why are we eating? Because we want the essence of that food inside of us. The body sense and intention that now he needs that essence that resides in that specific food. And before sleeping, that's the time of the gallbladder. And the gallbladder is, by the emotional function, it's a courage, and also in the spiritual, that's looking ahead, looking to the future, looking how will my action will affect me in the future. So that's a crucial time that now we can affect by how am I will be in the future.
Cool. So from how you just described it, it sounds like to me it's like kind of good to do the practices in the morning, the letting go, the taking in, and then even to like the way, at least what's popped in my mind is like then at night before bed to do the journaling and to really think about what it is that we want for the future, to like kind of do that internal visioning work. Cool.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Yotam, so much for all of your nuggets of wisdom. Thank you everyone for being here and hanging out with us and in all our emotional world. And yeah, if you want to go take this work to the next level, then please reach out to Yotam, and I'll put his email in the show notes below this. And also if you go into the bio, you can find ways to contact me and work with us. And thank you so much for your time and attention, and we'll see you next time.